Hello, I am Mac, at least for a day, and everything is going to be okay. This is going to be my first video of reviewing media. I just watched the 5 episodes of Black Mirror Season 6, a series on Netflix, and I have some pretty strong feelings about all the episodes, and I really wanted to do a review of all of them to tell people my opinions of them. Because I've seen a lot of the reviews and rankings of which episodes are best, and I strongly disagree with pretty much all of them. So this video is going to be a review of Beyond the Sea, an episode that a lot of reviewers are saying is the best episode, and in my opinion is the worst episode. If you can probably already tell by the title of this video, I think it's absolutely awful. So this video will contain total spoilers for the episode Beyond the Sea. I'll be going through the entire episode, telling the story and giving my review of it. Now, important thing I want to explain as I review Black Mirror episodes is my criteria is the way I view Black Mirror is it is social commentary on how technology affects our society. Usually Black Mirror episodes are in a not too distant future where the kind of technology we have today has become slightly advanced, and it shows how that technology is having a negative effect on our society. Some of the technology, already is having a bad effect on our society, and many episodes show how things could be even worse as the technology advances. Beyond the Sea, on the other hand, one of the problems with it already is the fact that it's not in a not too distant future. It's actually an alternate past. Almost all the technology, like the cars, TVs, computers, all the technology is basically from the 1970s or 80s. It's like the space race era, except there's one incredibly advanced technology that we didn't have in the 1970s, which is why it's an alternate past. It's a past where mostly everything was the same, except there was one incredibly advanced technology. So the premise of Beyond the Sea is there's two astronauts somewhere really far out in space on a spaceship. They never show that it's orbiting the Earth, so we can only assume that it's somewhere far out in deep space away from the Earth. But apparently they have the ability, they lay down in their beds and they have the ability to project their minds down to the Earth, and they have exact replicas of their bodies that are basically robots. I'll call them robots, but don't imagine robot bodies. I mean, you've probably already seen the episode if you're watching this review, unless you just want it to be spoiled without you watching it. But their robot bodies look exactly like them. It's just the same actors, but supposedly they have robot endoskeletons, basically like Terminators, where they look human on the outside, but they're robots on the inside. So basically, so the astronauts aren't lonely in space for their families. They have technology that projects their mind down to their robot replicas so that they can live with their families like normal while also maintaining the spaceship, which we don't even know what the purpose of the mission is. If anything, it seems like they're just testing that technology, the ability to project themselves down to Earth while also flying in a spaceship. Like, they never tell us what their mission is. But anyway, I'm going to be referring to one of them as Jesse Pinkman because the actor is Aaron Paul, who is the actor who played Jesse Pinkman in the show Breaking Bad. So I'm just going to refer to him as Jesse Pinkman. Those of you who've seen Breaking Bad will know exactly who I'm talking about. And then the other astronaut, I'm just going to call the other astronaut. So Jesse Pinkman and the other astronaut. So it starts out showing us their lives. The Jesse Pinkman's family, he has a wife and a son, and they've just moved out to a rural farm. And their marriage is very cold and not very loving. Like, he never seems to touch his wife. He's he does stuff with his son, but he doesn't seem to have a really good relationship with his son. His son is like 6, 7, or 8 years old, somewhere around there. So we get the idea that their marriage like isn't super happy. And then the other astronaut, he has a wife and 2 kids, and he's like a super great father, and they go out to movies together, and he's really loving to his wife. So what ends up happening is the other astronaut, who has a happy family life, his house gets broken into by 4 hippies, which they're not really hippies because hippies wouldn't do something violent like this, but they're like people that don't believe in robots, or they think it's a perversion of nature for a robot man to be living with a human woman. They understand that he's a real astronaut up in space and he's projecting his mind down to his robot body, but they think it's wrong for like a robot and a woman to be sleeping together, basically. So they break in, they end up killing his wife and kids and destroying his robot body. And the hippies get caught, so it's not like they're out still doing this or anything. The hippies get caught and arrested. They basically give themselves up, and the other astronaut's family is killed. So that's basically the premise. And yeah, so yeah, the premise is, so one of the astronauts who had a really happy family life, his family is slaughtered and killed, and his robot body is destroyed. So he's stuck up in the spaceship, and Jesse Pinkman still has the ability to live with his family by projecting his mind down to his robot body. So the other astronaut is horribly depressed, and it seems like he's maybe going to kill himself. And like, I don't like this narrative device, but the basic narrative device is, if one of the 2 astronauts dies, then the other one's going to die, because you have to have 2 people to man the spaceship. So Jesse Pinkman's getting concerned that the other astronaut is gonna shoot himself out of the airlock or something and kill himself because he's so depressed. So he ends up basically making a deal where he lets the other astronaut use his robot body sometimes. So he lets the other astronaut lay down his special bed thing, and it projects his mind down to his robot body. And you can kind of see where this is going. And at first it's just to let him get to breathe fresh air and all that and stuff. So what basically ends up happening, which you can probably guess, is the other astronaut starts to come on to Jesse Pinkman's wife, especially because, you know, Jesse Pinkman's family life isn't very good. He and his wife have kind of a, well, I mean, he's kind of standoffish from his wife. Honestly, my favorite character of this episode is Jesse Pinkman's wife. She's honestly a super sweet lady, and she's just dealing with the fact that her husband is very cold towards her. It's implied that their robot bodies, you know, aren't totally equipped, if you know what I mean. So they can't really have an intimate relationship per se, but the other astronaut, when his wife was alive, he still made his wife happy, physically, even though his body's not fully equipped, if you know what I mean. And he tries to do that to Jesse Pinkman's wife, and, you know, credit to her character still, because she totally, well, I mean, she starts to fall for it at first. Like, you can tell she's super lonely, and so she kind of ends up dancing with the other astronaut who is in her husband's robot body. But then when he really starts to try to kiss her and stuff, she backs off, and she's like, stop this, I can't believe you did this, I never want to see you again, and all that. So she's pretty much true to her husband. She starts to kind of let him dance with her and stuff, but then when he tries to start to be intimate, she decides, oh no, this is wrong, I can't do this to my husband, and all that. But really the big mistake she makes is that when her husband comes back, she doesn't tell Jesse Pinkman that the other astronaut came on to her. She just tells him that he hit their son. So after she rejects him, he gets really mad and hits their son. And this is the part where Jesse Pinkman's character really becomes unlikable because he doesn't get mad that the other astronaut hit his son. He's like, well, I smack him when he's bad and stuff. And the thing I really dislike about this episode is that both astronauts' characters are very unlikable. Um, Jesse Pinkman's character, like I've said, is really cold towards his family. And, he even admits that he like hits his son and stuff when he's mad at him. And of course the other astronaut, like, he was really nice, but then now he's trying to cheat with Jesse Pinkman's wife and everything and basically steal his life. So you're not really liking or rooting for either of those characters. The only character I was rooting for and liked was the wife of Jesse Pinkman. So I will give credit where credit's due. Jesse Pinkman, or Paul Aaron, who plays Jesse Pinkman, does a really good job of acting in this story. He does really good changing, because he has to change personalities where the mind of his real self is in his robot body, or the mind of the other astronaut is in his robot body. You can tell he becomes a very different person. Like, he's really cold and boring and not nice as the Jesse Pinkman character, but then when he's the other astronaut, he's really happy and nice and artistic and romantic and all this stuff. And there's some scenes where he cries, especially one scene where Jesse Pinkman cries because he's actually the other astronaut in his robot body, but he is crying because his family was just killed and now he's on Earth and he's having to really deal with that emotion, and it's a really good crying scene. Paul Aaron is a really good actor, and like, the character of Jesse Pinkman was fantastic in Breaking Bad. I'm not saying that he's a bad actor. His character, the way it's written, though, is very unlikable. The Jesse Pinkman character is just a horrible person. It's not Aaron Paul's fault that he got a bad character. He does a great job of acting, but the character is just so unlikable. You don't even feel for the guy. So what ends up happening, which is a subversion, because what you're thinking is going to happen is that the other astronaut is going to kill Jesse Pinkman in real life and then steal his life and go, just be the one who uses the robot body and pretends to be him and lives with his wife and son. So you think that's what's going to happen. And there's this scene where the other astronaut pretends that there's a problem outside the ship. So Jesse Pinkman goes on a spacewalk outside the ship to try and repair it, but then he finds out that nothing's actually damaged. And then they're like, oh, this is it. He's going to lock him out of the spaceship and he's going to die. So then he gets to the hatch and he's like banging on the hatch. He's like, let me in, let me in. So you're thinking, okay, yeah. So he's going to leave Jesse Pinkman out there to die, and the other astronaut's going to steal his life, steal his wife and son, and pretend to be him. But then he lets him back in the hatch. And when he gets in, like, the other astronaut does something. I won't get into all the details, but the astronaut does something that makes Jesse Pinkman realize that he did something while he was outside. So Jesse Pinkman, the astronaut, rushes to his bed to project his mind back down to Earth to his robot body. And he wakes up and he's covered in blood, and it doesn't even show, but it's implied that the other astronaut killed his wife and son while he was outside the spaceship. And this is absolutely awful. I hate this. For one thing, like I said, the wife is the most likable character, and she's killed off screen. It's not that I want to see her killed. It's just that the way they deal with that the way they kill off that character, you don't even see it happen. And yeah, I mean, well, first of all, it's horrible that she's killed, and then it's horrible that she's just killed off screen, and so they're not even treating the most likable character of the show very well. So obviously Jesse Pinkman is horrified. He falls down and weeps on Earth because he sees his whole family killed, which you don't see their bodies, you just see a bunch of blood in his house, and it's implied that their bodies are there murdered. And then, of course, he goes back, he goes out of the robot body back into his human body in the spaceship, and he goes into the like kitchen area where the other astronaut is sitting. And of course, the Jesse Pinkman character is like he's like upset and angry because the other astronaut has just murdered his family, and his eyes have tears in them and everything. And the other astronaut's just sitting there smug, like there's no words in the scene. But the other astronaut's sitting there smug, and he pulls out the chair basically to imply, have a seat, we're going to be stuck with each other. Because it said earlier that they have 4 more years that they're going to be on this space mission. Um, okay, so that ending, and that's how it ends. It doesn't show you anything that happens after that. Jesse Pinkman is just standing there angry with tears in his eyes, and the other astronaut, pulls out a chair to imply, have a seat, because now we're going to be stuck with each other for 4 years. That ending is absolutely horrible for several reasons. Um, for one thing, from a character standpoint, there's no way that that's going to happen. There's no way Jesse Pinkman is going to live with the astronaut who murdered his family for 4 years. Of course, like I said, there's this dumb narrative idea that if one astronaut dies, then the other is going to die too, because one person can't man the ship. You need 2 people. So they're trying to say that somehow they're going to live with each other for another 4 years, with one of them having murdered the other's family. And like, there's no way that would happen from a character standpoint. Jesse Pinkman is definitely going to murder the other astronaut because he killed his family, but they don't show that. The ending would have been slightly better if it had showed Jesse Pinkman leaping at the other astronaut to kill him, and then the episode ends. But instead, it ends on a cliffhanger with Jesse Pinkman standing there angry, and the other astronaut saying, "Here, have a seat," basically, with body language saying, "Here, have a seat." Yeah, they don't even give us the catharsis of showing us that they end up killing each other. They just leave it ambiguous. But there's no way that you could believe that they would continue living with each other without Jesse Pinkman, definitely end up murdering the guy who killed his family. So that ending is horrible. But then it kind of ruins the whole episode, because like I said, Black Mirror is supposed to be social commentary about how technology that we have in our world, or a slightly advanced version of technology we have in our world, could be a bad thing. This episode has absolutely nothing significant to say about our society or how our society could be affected by a technology. I guess it's saying that the technology to project your mind into a robot is somehow bad because it's going to end up having everybody's family killed, but that's just stupid. That one doesn't really follow the other. It's just the way the convoluted plot ended up. You know, the only thing that's close to social commentary is the supposed hippies that murdered the first astronaut's family, because they say that it's perverting the natural order for a robot man to be living with a human woman, in an intimate relationship. So that's kind of social commentary, I guess, how people judge some people's life decisions on the kind of people that they choose to marry and stuff, but that's only slightly. And that's just the beginning of the episode. That's the setup for the rest of the episode. I mean, everything else has nothing to do with that. It's just, the basic whole, if you wanted to sum up the premise into one sentence, is an astronaut's family gets murdered, so he murders the other astronaut's family to teach him what it's like to lose your family. Obviously, I'm not giving all the details. Basically, there's a point where Jesse Pinkman discovers that the other astronaut has been coming on to his wife. He finds a bunch of pictures that he's drawn of his wife. And so he realizes that he is trying to steal his wife. So Jesse Pinkman tells the other astronaut, you're never going to see my wife again. She hates you, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the wife has already rejected the other astronaut's advances. So he just kills the family as revenge against the wife for rejecting him, and revenge against Jesse Pinkman for not letting him use his robot body and try to come on to his wife. Yeah, it's just so stupid. I mean, there's no deep social commentary, nothing. It's just an astronaut whose family was tragically killed ends up killing the other astronaut's family to teach him a lesson and to make him feel the way he feels. And I can't believe that people are saying that this is the best episode. I like the premise, the idea of astronauts being able to project their minds down to robot bodies on Earth so that they're not just, bored, trapped in space. They can still see their families and everything. And that's why it's called Beyond the Sea, because it's like that song which they play the French version of, where it says somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me. It's implying that their families are waiting for them back on Earth, except they're actually living with their families on Earth in their robot bodies. So anyway, yeah. So I think Beyond the Sea is the worst episode of season 6 of Black Mirror, and maybe one of the worst episodes of Black Mirror in general. And I can't believe some people think it's the best one. Like I said, Jesse Pinkman is good. Maybe they're going off star power because they like Aaron Paul, the guy who plays Jesse Pinkman. And Jesse Pinkman does a great job of acting, like I said, but his character is totally unlikable. The other astronauts totally unlikable. The only likable character, the wife, gets killed, and the other family members, who obviously didn't deserve it, but we don't really get much screen time with them or get attached to their characters. But I mean, they died too, which is horrible. That the kids and the wives were all killed. And yeah, they kill off the most likable character, Jesse Pinkman's wife, off screen. And yeah, the two most unlikable characters, the two astronauts, are left at the end, and it's left ambiguous what's going to happen. And yeah, it's a horrible episode. It doesn't say anything significant about society. The main characters are unlikable. The most likable character is killed off. It's just a horrible episode. So I'm doing the worst episode first. There's one episode in this season that I really like, which will come at the end, and all the other episodes are somewhere in between. So I'm going to be doing a video on every episode. We're going to go from worst to best. So we got Beyond the Sea, the worst episode, out of the way, and I will do the second worst next, and eventually we'll get to the best episode at the end. But I hope people like this. I mean, I'm not really doing it for views. I'm doing it because I feel very strongly about these episodes of Black Mirror, and I really wanted to tell someone about it. So if you like that, if you like my opinions, or if you're really mad because you love Beyond the Sea, or you're gonna like the episodes that I disliked, oh well. I'm just giving my opinion, and you're welcome to like or dislike my opinion of these Black Mirror episodes. But that's going to do it for this one. I would say 1 out of 10 or 0 out of 10 for Beyond the Sea. I think it's absolute garbage. Some parts were good, some parts were boring though. There's a lot of filler. It's an hour and 20 minutes. They could have easily cut some of the boring parts out and made it an hour long. And the ending is absolutely horrible, and the episode as a whole says nothing significant about society or anything. So yeah, 1 out of 10 or 0 out of 10 if you're allowed to give that to Beyond the Sea. But anyway, I will see you in the next one. I have been Mac. Thank you for joining me for a day. And remember, everything's going to be okay.